Where do we begin? At the beginning, I guess, is the best place, isn't it? To begin with, people who know me or know of me now, as I take on the mantle of Blind Dave, and the reason for Blind Dave is quite simple. I'm blind, and my name's Dave. As a kid, up until I was 10, where I was diagnosed, but up until I was 10, I was just a normal kid as far as I was concerned. My mates were around me. I saw what my mates saw, and with reference to the area that I lived in, I did get a bit of a title as the clumsy kid, because anybody riding a bike into a car, a tree, a wall, falling over, spraining, all the accidents that were possible I had, and it was a case of I was just damn clumsy. At the age of 10, changing opticians, the optician must have seen something which was, I guess, obvious as I walked out of there with a letter from Mum and Dad. 6 weeks later I was escorted to the Birmingham Hospital by Mum, letter in hand, and we spent the whole day there where a consultant did a series of tests. Not very nice tests, I have to admit, in those days, but tests all the same. And at the end of the day, sat me down, and in the days when I was 10, there was no PC, politically correctness, health and safety to a degree. And he just simply sat me down and he said, "Son, you have a disease of the eye called retinitis pigmentosa." And I'm guessing I must have looked blank at him as if to say, "What?" And he then sort of explained in simple layman's terms so that a 10-year-old and somebody with my brain capacity could understand, "Son, you're going blind." Now, the realisation of being told this didn't really hit me until a long time after. It was planted, or should I say the seed was planted in my mind. My granddad was blind. It was explained to me that it was hereditary disease, which meant it passed through the X or Y gene, however that works. But I didn't really give it a lot of thought. You know, I was a lad. I was going home that night and hopefully going to get a game of football with my mates. 16 years of age, I left school. I went to mainstream. Came out of there with a couple of ambitions, one to learn to drive and one which was what I wanted to do as a career, was join the armed forces. And sadly, just before 18, both were dashed. Obviously there was going to be no driving for me through obvious reasons, and I then began to, or I should have said, the implications was starting to, sort of the penny was beginning to drop. My sight levels were dropping along with it. Although if you want, shook blindness aside, no, it wasn't going to happen to me. It wasn't happening to me. I wasn't going to accept it. I don't want to know. I'm not interested. But although on the other side of the coin, I'm thinking, things are happening here. And when I went to join the army, I went for my medical, flew through the physical, and then the doctor at the end asked me a series of questions. Seems like 10,000 of them, to be fair. And then he said, "Sign here, sonny," and I'd got fingers crossed, toes crossed, you name it, I'd got everything crossed. But he hadn't said no, and I'm thinking, whoa, there's a chance here. And as I signed the form, he said 3 words that changed my life, basically. "Son, you're exempt." That was the trigger that told me that basically blindness was going to ruin and rob me of a life. And that was when, I guess, the dark days started to a degree. I tried to live a normal life as much as I could. Always a smile on my face if you want to, but deep down I was hurting, I was angry inside, I was only bitter at me, not at the world. It was me that it was happening to. But it was then that the implications of what blindness was going to do to me and for me really started to develop. I had a couple of years where I felt sorry for myself. I'd kick a few walls, punch a few doors. in public, you know, it was always, no, it's all right, I'm okay, yeah. Wouldn't let people know to the extent of what I could or couldn't see. And I went on a bit of a journey, as I said. And then 2 years, 3 years maybe, it was just one night and it was simple. I was looking out the window at a tree at the bottom of the garden, which now I could barely see. And I thought, you know what? Is this what I'm about? Am I going to have people wiping me nose, wiping me backside? Am I going to sit here feeling sorry for myself? Am I going to have times like this when I'm alone and the tears flow and why me, why me, why me? Or am I going to grasp life? Because the good book says 70, 70 years. I'm barely 20 or just over 20. I got 50 years of this. And I thought, not on your life. And it was as if somebody flicked a switch and I thought, I'm going to start living. And my mantra from then to now is, stop worrying about what I can't do. And I'm going to concentrate my efforts on what I can do. And I'll say to people, and it may sound very, very strange, but I now treat my blindness as a gift because it has gifted me such a wonderful life. I've been to places, I've met people, and I've done things that I would never, ever, if I'd have been able-bodied or sighted, I feel done. And I've got a wonderful family around me, I've got a lot of great friends, I'm treated as a person, if you want to, rather than a blind person. And yeah, I still have, and still will have for a good many years, I hope to come, touch wood, a great life. So yeah, it's gifted me a wonderful, wonderful life.